Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming up to you with another video. Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is the day after the Lakers lost to the Pacers, and a lot of stuff is coming out in terms of uh, it seems to me that the organization and Frank Vogel are trying to put forth the face as if they're on the same page and if they want to move forward with one another, at least for the short term. Um, what the chatter is right now is the Lakers. Chris Haynes came out with a tweet right after the game and said the Lakers will not be making any management or coaching decisions of any kind immediately at this moment. So Frank Vogel will be joining the Lakers on this road trip, and that's what's being reported there. And then you got, on another hand, um, it's been reported that the Lakers now management have given Coach Vogel the green light to sit Russell Westbrook in the fourth quarter. That's the next thing that's been out there right now that's floating around. And my thing is this: Lakers organization, if that's the case, you got to understand something. You got to understand this very clearly. Russell Westbrook is one of those guys where you really, really, really don't want to have him at odds with you because you can't get rid of him. And all that's really going to do is put him in a position to have to adjust to that. And in adjusting to that, it could ruin our chemistry even further or make our chemistry even worse. Now, that is a far cry from what I've said many times on this camera, which is we should bench Russell Westbrook if he's not playing well. But you gotta do it when it makes sense. See, that's the problem I have with Frank Vogel. He doesn't really do things when he should. He just does it when he plans to do things. You feel me? It's like if he had the plan to do it, he's gonna do it. There's no adjustment that will be made. And I think that's what Carmelo kind of, listening to his comments, that's kind of what I read from what he was saying in terms of, um, we kind of just go with what we're doing. We're doing what we're planning. Whatever the game plan was, that's what we're doing. And in the tone that he said it, in the way that I took it, it was as if that wasn't necessarily what he would prefer. And it's not what I would necessarily prefer either. I think, a good coach is not a coach that sticks to a plan. He's a coach that knows how to change when things change. He needs to be able to audible with those things. And I just feel like, I think when I was looking at Russell Westbrook play yesterday, I felt like he was having one of the best games he had played. Him and THT. They were both two of the players that we complain about the most for having one of the better games. I thought Russell Westbrook's shot selection could have been better, but I thought it was pretty good for what we were used to. I thought his turnovers were good for what we were used to. I did hear of him missing shots here and there. I did not see as many of those because of my obvious situation, finding links and stuff like that. But I didn't miss much of the game last night at all. And from what I saw, Russell Westbrook may not have shot his greatest, but he wasn't the problem out there. He wasn't even a problem out there. He wasn't no problem or a problem yesterday. And if he was, I missed all that. The problems the Lakers had last night was their choices to run small ball in certain key areas, not playing Dwight when we needed to, and ultimately going with Trevor Ariza and Carmelo Anthony too long. They didn't have it last night, and of course, because we had it planned out to play them, we didn't change our game plan when that was the case. Last night wasn't the night to bench Russie. It wasn't. There's been several nights where we could say, you know what, he shouldn't have been on the floor, and we would have read the tea leaves a bit better and adjusted to what was actually happening in front of us, we would have known when to take him out and when to play him. There would have been many games that I probably would have sat him in the fourth. Unfortunately, last night was not one of them. You choose a game where guys playing well to do that. I don't think that's good for chemistry. I don't think that's good for people instilling trust in Frank Vogel. I don't think it's good for going forward. Same things we've been talking about, which is not believing in him making those adjustments. So I've lost faith because of his inability to read the floor properly and have feel for the game. That's one of the issues I have with Luke Walton. It's the issue I have with Frank Vogel. It's like we're gonna go with the game plan regardless, bump what's going on in front of us. And I just, after having two coaches like that, it reflects poorly on the organization. Now you look at the organization and say, well, are y'all doing these things? Are y'all telling these coaches to do these things? Are y'all really the ones sitting up here saying stick to the game plan because that's what we do when you know that game of basketball needs to be adjusted to in real time? I just don't think that. I don't think that the organization it has people in the front office that would do that. I think they're telling people stuff that would make them say, oh, okay, the Lakers are poised to give Frank Vogel a little more rope. The Lakers have this under control. The front office and the players and the coaching staff are aligned. They want us to say that. But the tea leaves don't read that at all. So that's what I'm waking up to say. Like that Chris Haynes tweet and the various things that I've spoken about, all it does is take my faith away from the Lakers, not necessarily instill it in the Lakers. I'm losing faith. I'm losing faith in the front office. And I'm telling you, Rob Palinka is going to start getting a whole lot of attention from Laker Nation. It's already begun to happen. It's already begun to happen as to where fans are not turning their attention to Vogel. They're not turning their attention to the roster. They're turning their attention to the person who put the roster together. And that's Rob Palinka. Now, on this channel, we have questions about how much power Rob Palinka has, how much decision-making freedom a lot of people have in this organization because of the presence of LeBron James and the reputation he has for controlling things and making sure things go his way. And it does fall on him at the end of the day if that is how the Lakers are allowing things to be run. But the key word is Lakers are allowing. Lakers are allowing. Even when you start talking about the power and the presence of LeBron James and how much he controls things, you have to look at Genie and say, well, he only has that control because you've given it to him. No different than some of the other situations with Jim Buss and Magic Johnson in various situations. Whatever the Lakers got going on, at the end of the day, Jeanie Buss writes the checks and says the yeses and the nos. And we know Jeanie is great in terms of she will get it done and she'll make it happen and she'll be patient to do it. But sometimes she takes her time. Sometimes she has her heart involved in these situations, and she gets close to these people. It seems that's what's reported. Rather, of course, I don't know this, but that's what's reported. That's what it seemed like. People just stay a little longer than they should because we're a family organization, and Jeanie wants to see people succeed, and she don't like being a bad person. Ain't nobody mad at that. We like that. The same thing that makes her a great owner kind of makes us frustrated because we like things done a little sooner. But sometimes when Laker Nation wants things done right away, sometimes we got it wrong. Sometimes she has it right, and we're happy. So, I've learned over the years to trust the Buss family, even when things are turbulent. They tend to turn it around. It may take a little time, but they get it. So that's great. What I want is for the Lakers now to kind of learn from past eras' mistakes. We've done some things as an organization in the past that should be able to help us with what we're going through right now. We've been through a lot, At the end of the day, I'll never say Jeanie Buss is weak or anything like that because it doesn't take nothing but machismo to do what she was able to do in regards to Jim, her brother. Far be it from me to say that she ain't have what it takes or doesn't have the right people around her to help her in the right direction. She definitely does, including her other brother, who I think is an amazing scout, one of the best we have. So, the Buss family has always been, and I've been on this camera saying it many times, I'm very happy with them. Very happy with them, and I ain't mad at them today. I don't want them to sell the team at all. I just want us not to drag our feet on different things that can help us salvage our season. Now, granted, salvage means getting us to the playoffs. It doesn't mean winning the championship because I don't believe that is going to be within our control. I just don't think we can get what we need, and I don't think most people who are savvy and know what the Lakers got going on believe that Rob Palinka is going to be able to get what we need. But we have to start reversing the process of some of our fortune. And one of the things that we must do is relieve Frank of his duty. Now, it doesn't mean that everything that's going on is his fault. It doesn't mean that everything going on he has any control over. It just means that the Lakers don't have a whole lot of control over their circumstances based on the limitations of their cap and all that, and need to do what they can to improve the team. And that's one thing that we can do that won't hurt. So that's what we need to do. Now, granted, we are paying two coaches. The two coaches that are being paid right now. The guys that we had prior to, I believe, those contracts is still Byron Scott and, of course, Luke Walton. So, when you have that kind of thing going on, you certainly, if you're Jeannie Buss, are not excited about firing another coach that you're still going to have to pay for more years. But she's forking over so much money, you know what I mean? At this point, she's forking over so much money for this roster. I think the most important thing to do is to salvage that initial investment. And the way to do that is to get the most out of it. So holding on to Frank or worrying about other expenses as it pertains to not wanting to make the decisions to make it better, you're just throwing the whole thing away by doing it that way, in my opinion. It's like either you pour more into it or you've lost everything you've poured into it. That's kind of how I'm viewing this roster. And there's another thing that segues me into another space. As I listened to myself many times talk about the Lakers over the last couple of weeks, I've listened to some of my old videos last night. I just wonder if I'm looking at the Lakers pick situation and the contract situation the right way, because I put a hell of a lot of emphasis on Russell Westbrook's contract and how it could be a deterrent from us getting better. And while I do believe that is a great possibility, I also understand that it comes off the books in 2 years. And that 2-year time frame, I think I put a little more emphasis on the urgency to remove that contract as if it were a 4 or 5 year contract. So I'm just wondering, I'm not making any declarations in this camera about changing my mind, but I'm just wondering if I'm looking at that the wrong way. Because that's one thing I can find myself doing. I'll hang my hat on a certain point, and will not deviate from that being the point we need to pay attention to. And sometimes it's a bigger picture. Maybe there are other ways to skin a cat, etc. So I'm just wondering, I would love to have somebody let me know, am I viewing this properly? Should I be as with the urgency necessary to get rid of Russell Westbrook's contract and the doom and gloom that comes with keeping it and letting it play all the way out? Because if it's only a 2-year deal, maybe it's not as pressing to move it as I've put in mind. But the same thing applies to just about every change that you can make. Is it as necessary as it seems, or do we need to wait for Kendrick Nunn? Do we need to wait for Anthony Davis? Obviously, we need to make a small move to make it so that we have a backup center, because we literally don't have one. So that is incumbent upon everybody to agree. Even if you don't want to play the damn center, make sure he's rostered. And right now, we only have one official center that we feel comfortable using. DeAndre Jordan is not someone we want on our basketball floor anymore. So that's really what it is. The Lakers are always going to be at a disadvantage from a roster standpoint, and Frank Vogel can always hang his hat on the fact that we don't have enough rim protection to make him a decent team, and that's the truth, whether we like it or not. I would love to then, once again, turn my attention back to Rob Palinka and say, that's when it's on you. Because I can't imagine LeBron James is saying, you know what, do not get me another center. I don't need another center. Ain't nobody saying that. And I can't imagine it costs too much to make a phone call and get Willie Cauley-Stein on the line to sign him today, because he doesn't have a ball club. We need a center, and there shouldn't be nothing else to talk about in regards to that. There's another guy on the Indiana Pacers by the name of Batazde that did a lot of things yesterday for his team in terms of the defensive end. He's a backup center. He's somebody who hasn't gotten a lot of minutes. He's probably someone that doesn't have a path forward with the Indiana Pacers in terms of being able to break out. He's been in the league for about 3 or 4 years, and he looks like he's in very good shape. He's not going to cost a whole lot, I'd imagine. He's just a guy on the Pacer bench that you can add to whatever deal you are asking for. If you can get him, I would acquire Batazde from the Pacers, because I think he's exactly what we need. He's a guy who's not going to be too overly talented to take anything away from the other guys in terms of shots and stuff like that. That's not his game. He's going to block shots, which is obviously what we need in rim protection. He's going to rebound some, which is obviously what we need. And his contract's not going to be crazy because he's not a cachet of guy like that. So his upside is something that we can bank on if we grab him into our uniform, put him in our uniform, sort of like KCP. We can see him being a player who ascends in value for us over time. Let's say, you give him a 1-year deal for every year for the next 4 years. You're happy about who he is going to be or whatever, however you play it. But that's the kind of piece that I think is inexpensive, fits a need, and ultimately is doable. So that's the type of stuff I want to see for Rob do. You can turn a second round pick into Batazde or something. It's a small move. It ain't something that's going to move the needle. Laker fans going to scratch their head, and I'm going to smile because that's exactly what the hell we need to be doing. So that's just one thing I want to look at. I look at a guy like Mo Bamba in Orlando. We've had our eyes on him. That would be a miracle if we could acquire him. That has been something I've wanted the Lakers to do since his value was in the toilet. And he would have already been a Laker if I were wanting things. Because we had an opportunity to get him for little to nothing about 2 years ago when he averaged like 5 points and was hurt. And that's the type of move you need to make. And see, that's what I'm talking about. Like, you see the Bol move where he's going to Boston, but he ain't going to help them until next year? Type of move the Lakers should have made. You definitely want something like that because even though we are a win now team, we don't have any assets that can help us tomorrow. And if we were to acquire a guy like Bol, at least we could see the upside of our assets start to improve based on the fact that we have him here alone. So those are the type of things I'm like, that's what we need to do. Don't worry about getting the big name. Certainly don't look for the massive name. Look for the name that's going to be a name tomorrow. Can you imagine if we would have got Anthony Simmons 2 years ago when his value was nothing? Look at him now. Dude's a starting point guard putting up Trae Young type numbers for the Blazers while Dame is out. Dame shouldn't even have a job when that man come back. That's how good Anthony Simmons has played. Dame should be traded. That's how real this has gotten. Look at Tyrese Maxey. We could have got Tyrese Maxey. No, we probably couldn't have. But what I'm saying is these are guys whose value weren't as high just a week ago. That's what I want to help all of us on this channel start to think like. Don't get me the guy that's been out for 12 years running around. I don't need him. Give me the next one. Give me a pick. I'll pick of the litter the next one. I'll pick the next one. I'll tell you which one it's going to be, and we develop him properly. And I won't be impatient in developing him. I ain't going to put him on the trade block like THT if he struggles for his first couple years. No, and I'm not going to pay him like THT just because I know his upside is up there. I brought him here. I know what his upside is. I ain't got to overpay for him. These are the type of things I want the Lakers to start thinking about, man. Just these things. And some mantra of understanding that every possession counts. I don't care what coach you bring in, what roster you bring in. If you're a Los Angeles Laker, if it's up to me, one of the things that we're going to demand is that attention be paid to each and every possession we play. As expensive as it is to have an NBA basketball team on the floor, every possession is a very important transaction, and we need to start respecting that more so. If we did, we would be a better club no matter who we have on the floor, including without rim protection. Just more attention to detail and less laziness on both sides of the floor. Effort. It's the same thing that Robert Horry talked about, and it's the same thing I want to see. The most important thing for the Lakers to look for, well, not the most important, but a very important aspect, a trait I'm looking for in players, is the relentlessness like a Russell Westbrook, to not really care about the score and certainly not care about the circumstance. Be confident, be crazy, be relentless. That's the type of players I want on this team. Not stupid, crazy, as in I don't see the score, I'm not interested in momentum, I know what I can do and I'm going to go ahead and do it. That's the type of personalities we want. Lance Stevenson type mentality. Like, just come through and not care, bro, and do what you do. Dance on people and feel real confident doing it. You give me players like that, and I think we're going to get far. LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, wily, crazy, talented, smart, athletic youngsters. That's the type of team I would build for us. That's the type of team I have in mind. Maybe not those names because they're going to be too expensive in theory, but those type of guys. They ain't scared of the bright lights, and that's something the Lakers need to be very, very honest about as well. Not everybody can play in your uniform. Not everybody's going to be who they were elsewhere here because of the presence of all that comes with being a Laker. It's hard. It's very hard, and it ain't for the faint of heart. Bring in somebody who's ready for that, and if they ain't ready for that, have a contingency plan to move them on immediately. Doesn't necessarily mean you don't have to work that plan, but you definitely have to have it in place. So these are the type of things I just want the Lakers to change their mentality as it pertains to what we're looking for, and then we'll have better results in what we get. Even if we can't get all that we want, we should at least be able to get the type of pieces that can help us with what our problems are, and that is not something I think is impossible, even with the limited cap space that we have. We can get small moves to make us a hell of a lot better. We just got to get very, very creative, and it's on Rob Palinka to do that. Here's the problem I have with Rob Palinka, and it's a problem I've had with Rob Palinka for a very long time, and it ain't got nothing to do with what's going on right now. It's just something that reminds me of how much doubt is there for Rob Palinka when I want to be pessimistic. It's the Zubats trade, fam. It's the Zubac trade for Mike Muscala, who is shooting very well right now, by the way. Mike Muscala is a different person than when we had him in the past. I'm not saying I want to acquire him, but he's definitely the type of player that if you need him to hit some shots for you, he's not the scrub Mike Muscala that we were talking about 2 years ago when I hated that trade. He's actually a guy who's developed into a pretty damn good straightaway shooter. So that's neither here nor there. Back then, he was a super scrub and you hated him. And honestly, it was the worst trade I've ever seen in my life. Still is. And Rob Palinka made that trade in fatigue because he couldn't get AD done. That was an emotional, what seemed to me, that's key, an emotional and fatigued, I don't give a damn, I'm just going to do something because I'm angry I didn't get what I wanted type of deal. And it hurt us. And it's still hurting us because obviously he's a center and we don't have one. Zubac should still be a Laker. There was never a reason to get rid of him. We didn't get anything back in that trade that would have made us happy. I know they probably didn't want to pay Zubac, but that didn't mean you trade Zubac for something that you could not use at the time. Horrible decision. Another thing that just, you can't really do nothing with that one. But I would have said, I just love what Darius Garland turned into. I know we were in striking positions to have him on our team and draft him, and we just traded him in the AD trade, and along with Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball. And I'm just looking at that AD trade, and I hated it then, and I didn't have a problem with it in 2020, and now I hate it again. Here we are. So what am I going to do? All I can say is I'm frustrated about the fact that Darius Garland is one of the best passing and scoring point guards in the world today, and he's only been in the league for 3 years. And there's a good chance he makes an all-star team, if not this year, then next year. And I know how much better he's going to get because he has a lot of natural ability. He's a point guard. He can dribble, blah, blah, blah. You don't care about that because he's a Cleveland Cavalier. But the point is we had his rights. We had them in our hands. I was telling everybody on the camera, draft Darius Garland. Do not enter him in this trade. Give up something else. Do not allow him and his fourth pick to be moved in this AD trade because it's an asset we don't realize that can turn into something much more valuable. And we would love to have him in a few years, and here we are. He's blowing up in Cleveland, leading them to the playoffs, and here we are looking around saying, God, we wish we had some more youth on this team because our old guys are too expensive to make us any better. Very, very predictable stuff, unfortunately, if you assumed, like logic would tell you, that Westbrook would be facing some regression and AD would be injury prone. So I'm angry at myself for not foreseeing all of this, as you guys already know. I'm not going to sit up here and say, I saw this coming. No, I didn't. I was in the dark, blind champion in the bad stuff, just like anybody else who was blind champion in the bad stuff. But now I've seen the light, and now I want it undone. I don't like what I got, and that's it. So I'm hopeful that the Lakers will see the fruit in making the changes, swift ones, quick changes that'll ultimately save our season and give us an opportunity to at least make the play-in tournament with a roster that is complete. Oh, and for God's sakes, trade Kendrick Nunn. Trade him. Just do that for me. Do it for me. Because honestly, I am so very irritated by the fact that he has our mid-level exception and has not played basketball all season. Ain't his fault. I don't care. Do it for me. Get something back for him that isn't completely gone. Because right now, we got damaged goods for our very own mid-level exception. That could be a very, very good player or two players. You know how many guys sign $1 million deals and go crazy? Look at Stanley Johnson. We could have 5 Stanley Johnsons if we didn't have Kendrick Nunn on our books. Do Laker fans realize that? That $5 million, how expensive and how helpful that money could be in terms of other players? It's the type of stuff. So I want that undone. I want that value back. Because even if you bring him back and he runs around for a little bit, you ain't recouping all that you've given up. And you ain't getting back what you paid for because he's damaged goods and he probably ain't going to be in that type of shape until well after we're out of the playoffs. So get him out of here, bring in something that can actually help this roster. And do that. That's something you can do. It's something you should do. It's something that should be done right now. Get Kendrick out of here. So that's what I got to say, man. I don't think Kendrick ain't a player who can play. In fact, I know he can play. That's why I know we can trade him. He has value, and he's about to come back. All of that is great for him, and I hope he gets to a situation that he can play well. But right now, we have a logjam at point guard, shooting guard, and all that. The guys we have in rotation are pretty good, with the exception of Avery Bradley, of whom I would love to see us trade as well. And just put us in a position to just have a bit more continuity and size out there. Size is what will help us. Continuity is what we need. So that's what I say. That's what it is. I'm glad you guys gave me an opportunity to get all this out this morning, this venting session about the Lakers. Chris Haynes' tweet did not encourage me at all. I want the Lakers to make this move, and I want it done before we go on this road trip. I don't think anything good can be done by allowing him to continue to stress over whether or not his job is going to be on the line or not. I think at some point you just got to understand, now he knows he's going to be fired. Now it's one of those situations where it's just getting worse. His stress level is going up for no reason. If you know you want to fire the man, I think the most merciful thing to do is to make that happen sooner than later. Not to drag the feet to make it look like he has a chance so he can fight, so he can go on a nice little 3-game winning streak, only to have to go through this again as soon as we start losing. We're going to start losing because he does losing stuff. I don't think I can be any more clear about that. If you're waiting for him to prove to you that he should be fired, he's already done it. That's it. So, that's what I got to say about that. I know the road trip starts now. The very next thing we'll do is get on a plane and fly wherever the next destination is. It's the East Coast. I don't know who the first team is. I honestly didn't check. But I will get back to you when I know, and then we'll talk all the way about it. And I don't think the Lakers play anytime soon either, if I'm not mistaken. It's going to be a little bit before we get back on the court. So hopefully the Lakers, with that being the truth, will make the changes necessary to make us a better team for the road trip. I'd like to see us make moves before the road trip starts. Like, I'm serious. If it were up to me, Rob would already have done something right now. So I'm hopeful the Lakers will give us a Woj bomb today, man. Get this coach up out of here. My name is BDF44. I thank y'all for watching.